Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Larkin, one half of the Steve and Mike Show. www.steveandmikeshow.com is up and running, where you can hear such shows as you're about to hear tonight. This is another edition of On the Mic with Mike, and I am pleased to have on the amazing, the lovely, the talented, 5 foot fine, sweeter than wine, Miss Red Velvet. Red Velvet, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
You're very welcome. I gotta say, first and foremost, you are an amazing talent. I've seen a lot of your work. We're gonna cover a lot in the platform today, so I gotta say once more, thank you again for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, first and foremost, to get started, do you have a defining moment or a defining matchup that made you get into professional wrestling? What was that defining moment that made you want to get into the professional wrestling career?
Well, what made me fall in love with wrestling had to be the matchup where Rios turns on Lita and the Hardys rescued her.
Mm-hmm.
That moment was like the moment that made me fall in love with wrestling. But I think the moment, the way that got me started into wrestling was so weird because I had watched wrestling since I was about 9 with my mom. You would think it'd be like my dad, a boyish type of thing. But I started with my mom. And I watched wrestling for years, but then I got into professional wrestling. I got into professional dance. So I kind of like withered away from wrestling because, I was getting older and I was dancing. And I came across, I was flipping the channels and like Triple H came on and he was like, oh, we're having, Tough Enough audition. Anyone can do it without training or anything. And I was just kind of like curiously going about it. I would joke around a lot when I was little to my mom, and like I had her make me an outfit that looked just like Lita's when she first started, and I was like, I'm gonna be a professional wrestler. But in my mind, I was just little, being a fan, not knowing that that's really where I was gonna end up. So I have to say, I always watched wrestling, but the moment where I decided like, oh man, I should try this thing was definitely like after the Tough Enough tryouts, because I saw how many people reached out, how many people got behind me, and I hadn't even like taken a single bump yet. So I was like, wow, like life really does come full circle. How I joked about it when I was little that that's what I was gonna do, and then the opportunity just presented itself.
Now, I have to say this with you, first and foremost, before we even get to the Tough Enough. I mean, you're talking about, Rios turning on Lita, because for those who don't remember, that is what started the great Team Extreme that we got with Hardy Boys and Lita. After Rios was with Lita, the whole thing where Lita debuts and Gilbert winning the light heavyweight championship. Good times, 2000. But, yeah, so, I mean, that's a great moment because Lita, being a Hall of Famer, being the influence that she's had on women's wrestling, and you look at from the high-octane Aerial Assault, I mean, you can't get no better than Matt and Jeff Hardy, so I think that's actually a very cool moment to actually get into wanting to watch and wanting to do professional wrestling, which brings you to Tough Enough, which we've seen over the years where people like Maven and Nydia and Matt Capitelli, God rest his soul, and Miz, who was on Tough Enough, Johnny Impact, John Morrison, whatever you want to call him. But there are so many alumni that came from Tough Enough that had hell of careers. And I mean, I saw your audition tape. I thought it was well done. And like I said, I'm happy that you actually went out and did that because that was a big time. Everybody was sending in audition tapes, and look at some of the people from Tough Enough, like your Velveteen Dreams and so on and so forth, that are where they are now.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying the video was good. I didn't think it was horrible, but I look at it now after, a couple of years of wrestling, and I was like, oh my God, how embarrassing. But I just went with the flow, I try to be myself as much as possible. And then, I ended up getting like a Skype interview with the head director, and, some of my clips of my audition tape did go on TV. I didn't get picked for the show, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and that was the door that was opening for me to wrestle. I don't think I was meant to make it on the show, but I think that was the door that led me into the business, and I'm forever grateful for just that opportunity. I didn't get picked for the show, but I didn't see it as a negative. I just thought as like, this is what I'm meant to do, and that's the way it just was supposed to start.
It's funny because, first and foremost, as a spiritual person myself, I adhere to what you just say because, yes, everything does happen for a reason, and one door closes, another one opens. So I commend you on that, and we see where you are with your career now, Miss Red Velvet. But funny story that's actually funny is my buddy Dan, who I went to school with, right? That same year that you tried out for Tough Enough, he actually tried out and sent an audition tape. He did not get picked, but if anybody goes on YouTube and watches a Tough Enough audition of a young man running around a track and doing pull-ups on like the monkey bars where we had our playground, that was actually one of my good buddies, Dan, that I went to school with. So,
Nice.
so here's the thing, but you have to appreciate that drive because I thought it was cool. And like I said, well, I got to give you props on that. It also shows with your athleticism. And I like the fact, because going back to dance for a second, you've done dance for many years, and that shows your athleticism, your acrobatics, and your overall structure and your overall core. I mean, being not a dancer myself, but as someone who's watched my mother over the years, because my mother used to take ballroom dancing for many, many years. So,
Nice.
So
I love ballroom dancing.
Exactly. So I mean, I look at it like if you're that does help you and it disciplines you for stuff like that, because if there's some people that come from a dance background, some people in wrestling that we've seen that have done dance and stuff, so it does help actually get you into the door with wrestling and helps you work on your athleticism.
Most definitely. I think I strongly 135+million% believe that I would not be the wrestler I am today had I not had a dance background. I'm grateful that dancing was my stepping stone, and that's what I started, and I, was perfecting that craft and became a professional dancer because that only made it easier for me to become a wrestler because I was just fearless when I first started. I was also a cheerleader, but like I've gone thrown in the air, I partnered a lot, so just like I was completely full aware of my body when I first started wrestling. So things that might feel awkward to other people who've never done a sport or just started wrestling just kind of felt natural for me because after 10 plus years, I've become very in tune and one with my body. So I'm very grateful that I do have a dance background because it made wrestling so much more easier. It's not easy to begin with. Training is not easy. Getting there is not easy, but it just made me appreciate it more and just push a little harder because, I did work on a profession before that it takes just as much commitment and discipline. So I think the discipline of dance and everything really helped me get to where I am with wrestling.
And I think a word I can use to help describe it is also graceful. It also helps you being graceful with your footwork and stuff. Yeah, exactly. So that helps with your in-ring work. And I mean, Shane
it helps to be smooth like velvet.
Exactly. Yeah, I see. All right. But, and I mean, and I'll use another word too. Safe and spectacular. Shane McMahon always said about, getting in the ring, keep it safe and spectacular. And I think that's a great mindset to look at going into each and every matchup that you have. Yes,
I agree.
So, and yes.
I always want to come out the same way I came in. Safe.
Yes.
Injury free.
Well, I gotta say, Miss Sweet as Velvet, here's the thing about you. We were talking about your catchphrase here because I love the whole 5 foot fine, sweeter than wine, red velvet, and I gotta say, what you've done with your character, you've run with it, and I love each and everything that goes about with your character and your overall in-ring work. You really have just stepped it over these last few years, and I gotta tell you, much love and respect to you on that front.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think everyone, when they first start, they just kind of want to have something. And the funny part was, like, when I first started, I actually was going to name myself Red Violet. But when I went to film the Tough Enough audition, my friend who was filming was like, I don't really like Red Violet. I kind of like Red Velvet because you remind me of a red velvet cake. Velvet is smooth. That's just kind of the way you are because you're a dancer. And, you have that little gorgeous chocolate skin and the red hair. Like, you're definitely a red velvet cake. So I was like, you know what? Let's run with it, right? So it just first started with my hair, and then later I just kind of like got more into that persona. Like Red Velvet is literally me and how I am regular life by times 100. Like regular people, me is like a little more shy, a little more conserved, but like Red Velvet is not that person. She's like that superhero that goes 0 to 100. I want to be that female wrestler that not only inspires kids but inspires like anyone to do whatever it is that they want to do, because I came from nothing, so I don't like have anything to back me up like, oh, someone in my family member was a wrestler before. No, like I came from nothing. So like me making it and me developing my character shows people that have nothing that they can do it, that you don't need a back door, that you can bust the front door and make it big. So I'm just taking some time to develop Red Velvet, and just the catchphrases came from like, okay, how do I want my work to be? How am I? And, everyone touches the fabric velvet and it's smooth. So I try to be as smooth as possible in the ring, but when I need to attack, I will attack. So don't let the sweetness kill you, charm you and everything, because I'll end up being your guilty pleasure if you stir me the wrong way. And I like to stir the pot as well. That's why I'm always serving it up. I tell everyone, if you can't stand the heat, you got to stay out of the kitchen. So I'm small and feisty, but sweets can kill you sometimes.
Listen to me. My mother is 4'11", and my mother is probably one of the toughest people I know. So I know about short and feisty.
Exactly, and it's your mom. So what better than mom's cooking? That's why I'm, straight out of your mama's kitchen. Everyone loves mom's cooking. There's nothing like your mom's cooking. So the fact that you said your mom is the strongest person you know, just fucking freaking, excuse my French, stamps the fact that Red Velvet is here to, lay down the foundation and get everybody on notice.
First and foremost, it's okay. It happens. You can let out the F word. It's all right.
I'm sorry for the F bomb. I got
don't even worry
emotional about it.
First and foremost,
listeners.
That's all right. I could say this to anybody. It's okay. You can curse on this show, but it's all right. We're grown ups. You can say the F word. It's all right. It happens. Emotions running wild. I get you. But number two, first and foremost, the velvet cake is absolutely delicious. Because come on, velvet cake, absolutely delicious. But number two, here's what I actually want to say, is you brought that up because I look at it like this: two of my biggest influences were my mother and my grandmother, God rest their soul, right? So three key elements that I love are the beauty, strength, and dominance that make women the work of art that they are. And I'm actually going to include you in that because that's another thing that you exemplify right there and right then.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Oh, sure, no problem. What I was going to say is what's great about what you also just mentioned is because, my mother and my grandmother, God rest their soul, are two of my biggest influences. So I look at the three key elements that make up women for who they are: beauty, strength, and dominance. And that's what makes women the work of art that they are. And I include you in those sentiments.
Oh, thank you.
So,
thank you. I feel the same way. My mom and my sister are currently my base and my backbone, and I don't know where I would be without them. So, your mom and her being your strongest influence, I stand strongly behind that, because I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for my mom and my sister. They're my world.
Yeah, and I agree. And you like you said, you come from nothing. You're not for example, a Randy Orton, a third generation superstar. You don't have.
Yeah, and it's not knocking on them, because my dad was a professional wrestler. A professional boxer. Mm-hmm. But I didn't decide to become a professional boxer. I decided to do things my way on my own. So I have someone who was very successful. But it actually had nothing to do with what I was doing, but the training and everything was the same. But it's not a knock to anyone that's a second generation or a third generation. The fact that they even capitalize on that is much respect. I don't want that to come across I'm knocking on them because they came from, second generation, third generation. But I just feel a lot closer to my fans, because there is a lot of fans that do want to become wrestlers that come from nothing. So I don't want them to think that you need your family to be wrestlers to become wrestlers. I came from nothing, and I want them to know that they don't need a backdoor, that yes, that's great that you're second, third generation, but that you could be just no one and just step through that door and make it and be a wrestler and be successful.
I think that's great.
We're humans. We're all humans. We believe the same, regardless of your third generation, 15th generation. We all believe the same.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because, like you mentioned, coming from nothing and, here I am. And by the way, first of all, that also must add a lot to you because your dad being a former boxer, you get those skills handed on to you. And now that helps you also with your work as well.
Yeah. So, I'm very grateful that he did what he did because he looked out for me and my sister growing up, and he put us in self-defense and MMA, so I was not really afraid going into wrestling. But I'm glad that he didn't pave the way for me, because that means I can write history exactly how I want it to be written.
Exactly. And I'm going to say this to you because we're about to touch upon your career. We talked about a lot with the Tough Enough, but I have to ask you, let everybody know who you were trained by and just talk about the school that you were you trained at.
Of course. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. I started training first with La Rosa Negra, who's from Puerto Rico, which I was there a couple of weeks ago. Love her. She started training me. Then she was, fortunate enough that an opportunity went to Japan. So she put me in the hands of JB Cole and Soulman Alex G. And JB has a school in Miami called Fighting Evolution Wrestling. and that's where I started, homegrown from there, and that's actually the school that gave me the platform to create Red Velvet and have so much room to explore and get to know myself. So I'm forever grateful for them and for that opportunity, because I was able to develop myself times 100 because I had a great platform that a lot of people don't get. I debuted at 2 months in,
Wow.
and I was just kind of thrown out there. It was either sink or swim, and I swam, so I knew I was in it to win it. I was meant to do it.
Now, here's the thing with that. When you talk about that sink or swim mentality, I mean, when you're only just 2 months in and then, hey, like, do this. But, I mean, there must have been a reason for it. I mean, they must have thought, like, hey, let's give it a try and see what happens. And I think any obstacle that you get put in front of you, you overcame that obstacle, and here you are today. So.
Huh?
I was going to say, so you overcame that obstacle 2 months in, and then here you are today. That just toughens you up even more.
Yeah, and I mean, I was grateful. I was so ready when I started, like as ready as I could be. Let me not say so ready, because no one's ever so ready, but I was as ready as I could be. And I even look back at that match and I'm like, oh, what was I doing, But I was grateful that I was thrown in there, because I think wrestling is meant to make you comfortable when you're uncomfortable. If you don't know how to be comfortable while you're uncomfortable, like, it's really not for you, because you need to be versatile. You need to know how to, like, put on your game face when it matters the most. And that's what I did. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I went in there trusting the process and trusting that my trainers trusted in me to debut, and it was a night that I'll never forget. I was sharing the ring with such great people: Ron Simmons, Teddy Long, 2-4 Scorpio, and I got so much knowledge. It's just, I was very blessed in where I trained and how I was brought up there.
Well, and I mean, what great trainers. I mean, you're talking about Teddy Long, who's done managing, refereeing. You're talking about Ron Simmons, the first ever African-American World Heavyweight Champion, WCW. We're talking about APA. We're talking about Rodney Mack and Jazz, Teddy Long. Let me holla at you, playa. So, I mean, you have that knowledge. And, I mean, Ron Simmons and Teddy Long doing what Butch Reed. So you have that knowledge. So, I mean, what better? And I believe you're also... I mean, friggin' with Fighting Evolution Wrestling, women's champ. I mean, that's a big moment for you.
Yeah, first ever, and I didn't really care for a title. It was just very sentimental because it came out of nowhere. It came as a surprise. It came as a reward for me working hard and coming every day, for a year straight, never missing a day, and, putting up rings and being the only girl putting up rings. So it was actually a surprise that Teddy told my trainer, like, she deserved this. Like, she is the woman to represent the company. And just the fact that it was rewarded to me by Teddy 3 years ago, actually, it was an experience that I will never, ever forget. I was really lucky. And in the company that I was with, I got to meet great people: Marty Jannetty, oh my God, Rikishi, Victoria. I've shared the ring with so many people, the Headbangers, Hope Elijah Burke. The list goes on. So I would not change where I came from ever, because I have so much knowledge, and I was just in a bunch, and I'm blessed that I can call these people their regular phone number anytime I need something, and they're like family.
I have to say this because you did mention a name there, Victoria. I mean, we're talking about a former WWE Women's Champ, amazing talent. We're talking about fuse of Trish Stratus and so many great matches that she's had. And it's amazing just to see where people start from, because this is also a woman who started, the first time I ever saw her on TV was she was one of Godfather's hoes, and then she turned into what she turned into as Victoria. And I mean, it's very interesting to see how people, where their first appearance is, and then how they progress and, evolve over the years.
Yeah, that experience was great. She was actually, ironically, reffing my match, and it was the match I was having right before I was getting knee surgery. So it was a very emotional moment for me, just having her in that match.
Well, I gotta say this, as far as well, here's the thing. Wrestling is not ballet, and obviously, we have injuries and knee surgeries. And I gotta ask you now, after all this time, how's your knees?
It's great. I was fortunate enough that I just tore my meniscus, so it wasn't like MCL or ACL, so recovery was good. But just recovery really proved to me that I wanted to wrestle, because recovery wasn't easy. I tore my entire meniscus, so they had to actually reconstruct it completely. So recovery for me wasn't easy. I went to two 6-month sessions of therapy, so I was almost out for 8 months. But I chose to do it that way because I wanted to come back strong. But it was a mental game too. Getting back in the ring, like you get defeated sometimes, and I couldn't even do a simple 3/4 roll when I first got back from surgery. But I am back now. Knees never given out. Knock on wood, it will never give out. But it really makes you appreciate what you're doing and shows how much heart you have to get back in there.
And exactly, it's like you're jonesing, you're grinding to get back, and it's the will and it's the way, and you found that way, and here you are. So
here I am.
So I have to
tearing it up.
Yes. Now I have to say this to you as well because you did talk about La Rosa Negra, Black Rose. We got to talk about something here. We're talking about Puerto Rico. We're talking about WWC 46th anniversary. It was you and Black Rose, La Rosa Negra, Roxy. I'm talking about Desi Dorada. What was that like? I'm talking about World Wrestling Council, the Colognes, Carlos Colon.
Oh my God, amazing experience. Amazing experience. I wish it was longer than what it was. I was good there, wrestled 3 nights back to back, but 46th anniversary, man, that show brought me to tears. The Colognes are a family, and I'm so strong on family, and the way they run the show and the way they were with us, and, just the fans, how open they were, it was amazing. I'm very fortunate to be going back at the end of the year, but Rosa was the person who first took me under her wing. So just the fact that I got to share that in her hometown where she's made history, it really humbles you.
And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of La Rosa Negra's work. She's absolutely amazing. And I actually...
She's amazing. Are you kidding me? She's a showstopper. She's the definition of showstopper.
And I looked at another one of your opponents, Desi Dorada. Now, this is Desi Dorada, who's been on Ring Warrior. She's been around and doing her thing on the independents as well. So, I mean... that was a hell of a match.
It was, and she was a handful in the ring. She's not, since we're cursing, she's not the bitch you want to mess with. She's a great person in and out of the ring. Very much respect for her. Love her to death. And it was an honor to get in the ring with her and to share those 6 days in Puerto Rico with her. I would not have chosen anyone else.
All right. So on that note, we will say much love and respect to Ms. Desi Dorada, La Rosa Negra, and everybody involved. Because, like I got to say this, we're talking about Puerto Rico. We talk about even the UK. I love the different repertoires and everything you get to learn from where you travel. Because I think that whole European and those, when you get to go to foreign countries, it helps and adds a lot to the wrestlers. So I got to give you ladies much respect as y'all killed it.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. It was great. It really opens your eyes when you can take your wrestling out of the country and just see how different things are in places that aren't as fortunate as the U.S. It just really puts everything into perspective, and it just, to my opinion, it grew my passion for wrestling.
It does, and I have to say this to you as well, because I've been seeing a lot of your work. First and foremost, I got to say this. We're talking about names like Mia Yim. We're talking about names like MJ Jenkins. We're talking about people like Santana Garrett, Holiday. You have been in the ring with a who's who that we've seen in Mae Young Classics, that we've seen in Ring of Honor, Wow Women of Wrestling. So I got to say, I've seen a lot of those matches, and each and every one of those are great. So you got to talk about working with these ladies. I'm talking Holiday, Santana Garrett, so many greats like MJ Jenkins. What was it like to work with those ladies?
It was great. It was great, and I'm so happy that they're at where they're at right now, because if I could keep up in the ring with them, that means that I'm right behind them, So grateful that, they're all signed, they're all successful, and that I got to share the ring with them. I actually had a long storyline for a while with MJ. I wrestled a match in DR with MJ where I tore my meniscus, and I have to say that was one of my best matches. So, very grateful to have shared the ring with MJ, me, Holiday, Santana. Love them all. Great girls, amazing workers, amazing talent, superior athletes. Can't complain.
I got to tie in and correlate with this as well, because you mentioned MJ. I also seen a lot of your matches with one Brandy Lauren, also known as Ava Story, who we've seen on Impact's television, and she was just on the Evolve special that we saw that recently was on the WWE Network. Can you talk about working with Brandy? Because she's been all over Shine, like we mentioned, Impact, Evolve. Can you talk about working with Brandy Lauren?
Oh, yeah. Brandy, I'm coming for her. I love her. I love getting in the ring with her. She brings out the best in me. We got a little feud going on in Full Throttle. I'm determined to take her title because she can't keep it forever. So great worker, a great person, but when business is business, I'm taking her title. So September 14th, keep your eye open because I'm bringing the title over to Mama's Kitchen. So keep your eyes open on that.
Another one I've seen you going after a certain, Atomic Bombshells Championship. I'm talking about Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling. You and Destiny have a little thing going there as well.
I'm coming for every title. And honestly, titles don't mean anything to me, so let me take that back. I'm going company to company to put a statement on women's wrestling because you can't do it alone. So I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to be selfish and make it all about me because it's not about me. I share the ring always with one person or two people or three people or even 20 people. So I'm here to just capitalize on women's wrestling because we can hang with the guys and, hey, we could do it 10 times better too if we wanted to.
Amen to that. And I have to say this.
Amen.
Well, I got it. Well, here's the thing. As women's wrestling, like I mentioned, all right, I'll say this to you. As a 12-year-old kid who was at Madison Square Garden, I'm talking about 2004, WrestleMania 20, and one of the big matches on there was obviously Victoria Molly Holly, where Molly got her head shaved. We're also talking about, when they had the Playboy pillow fight. So we've come a long way from the bikini contest. And yes, women are beautiful, but like I said, there's a little bit more to add to that. And I think you and all the girls that we've seen over the years have added to that. And women's wrestling is just right at its peak right now.
Oh, yeah. It's not only that, I think every sport has just capitalized on women. Even the women's freaking soccer FIFA tournament. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Freaking Team USA capitalized. We're all equals now. So it's not oh, yes, we need to separate, man's team, woman's team. But, the women are making history, and not just in wrestling. So it's almost been a domino effect, and I could not have started wrestling at a better time. Yes, I appreciate the ones that, paved the way. And sometimes it sucks because they were great athletes and they did get, shortchanged in, the type of matches. But, they're still history makers and they paved the way. So I'm grateful and I'm happy to be a woman wrestler and a woman athlete, in this day and age.
And another thing, like you mentioned FIFA, which, again, prime example there as well. But another one, you look at what mixed martial arts in the world that we've seen over the years. We'll include the women first, like the Ronda Rouseys, the Shayna Baszlers, Jessamine Dukes, who are now a part of NXT, the MMA Four Horsewomen, Marina Shafir as well. But the MMA world has had a lot of influence on the pro wrestling world, and we've seen a lot of wrestlers try MMA and dip into both each other's respective worlds. So that's also what has helped a lot over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and also, again, it adds more to the repertoires. I didn't just want to, talk about, obviously, Ken Shamrock, your Bobby Lashley's, your Brock Lesnar's will be here all day, but you got to give credit to Ronda, who had an amazing year in WWE, and what Shayna Baszler's doing now. So, again, I think the crossovers are amazing, and I think that's what's needed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
So another one I have to mention you because we were talking about Mae Young Classic girls as well. Zeta Zhang and Ariel Monroe, Swole. You've also gotten to get in the ring with those ladies.
Yes.
So again, can you talk about working with Zeta Zhang and Miss Ariel Monroe?
I went against Zeta in 2 occasions and Ariel 1 occasion, but they were both great athletes and such humble wrestlers. No, they're not even wrestlers. Humble people. So just the fact that I got to share the ring with them, and see where they're at now, it makes me happy and it makes me know that us women are making a difference. I'm not one to be jealous of anybody or, yes, we're all competition to each other, but we need each other to get to the top. So whenever one of our sisters makes it, everybody makes it. That's how I see it.
And I look at I also wanted to touch upon Shine Wrestling with you. You've been in there with Luscious Latasha, who was doing her thing with Gabby Gilbert and Shine Wrestling. I'm talking about Avery Taylor. So you have got to also be in there with Shine, and Shine is another amazing company. And you also got to do Ring of Honor tryouts. So can you tell us about the Shine experience and the Ring of Honor tryouts?
Well, Ring of Honor tryout was my second year. I went in 2017, January 2017. I was still very green, so I'm grateful that I went at that time because, I really grasped the experience. And then this year, May, I went back and I was a completely different person, got completely different feedback. Still remember the feedback they gave me 2 years ago and took it with me for the second time around. But I've been going out to their shows, their Best in the World pay-per-view. I was just recently on their tour when they went to Nashville and Atlanta, helping them out, building the ring. You got to start somewhere. So that's definitely where I have my eyes out right now. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help out.
And I look at it like this because when you literally look at Ring of Honor, I just wanted to touch upon this for a second. You look at girls like Allison Danger. We're talking about Lacey. We're talking about Sarah Del Rey. We're talking about Daisy Hayes. And now you look at what future Women of Honor with the Kelly Kleins, the Stella Grays, and so many girls that are there now, Jenny Rose. I personally I'm glad that you mentioned that because I'd like to see some Red Velvet in the Women of Honor division go for that Women of Honor championship. So I stand a test with that. I agree with you. I want to see you in Ring of Honor.
Absolutely. We need to get like a riot going and get this noticed. I definitely think there's no one on their roster that looks like me. So they definitely need to switch it up. They need to add a little flavor. They need to add a little sweetness. And right now, they have their girls, but they're still kind of short on women. A lot of people have ventured off to new adventures. So I want to be a part of their women's revolution. And building that brand again for Ring of Honor and Women of Honor. So I'm definitely sticking around because I think I'm the person to make that change.
And I look at the dynamic there because I can just picture it right now. We got the Allure. We got Mandy Leon. We got Angelina Love. And we're talking about 5 foot fine, sweet as wine. A Red Velvet and Allure type of deal. That would be an interesting dynamic for you.
That would. I mean, right now they're the bullies of the group. So if I gotta go in there and I gotta stop them, I'll do that too. If I gotta join them, I'll join them. But if I gotta stop them and protect, the other group of girls because they're going around bullying people, then I'll take care of business too. Always there to stir it up. But I just hope they're ready.
So I have to say this with you because, well, first and foremost, I do have a couple final things I'd like to add, and I'm going to say this to you, as I do with every guest that I have, Miss Red Velvet. Anytime you want to come back on the show, you're more than welcome to come back on.
Absolutely. Thank you for even having me.
You're very welcome, because I'm going to tell you right now, folks, as you can tell, I'm a very passionate wrestling fan. I love talking about Ring of Honor. Like, I swear to God, as I was prepping for this, I'm like, God dang, this girl's in Shine. I'm talking about Stormy Lee. We're talking about Lexi Gomez, Amber Nova, girls that we've seen on Impact, WWE, all over the world. And you have got to share those rings with them. I got to tell you right now, your career is just going to keep going and going. And I'm going to tell you right now, straight up and down like 6 o'clock, stay in your path and shine, Miss Velvet.
Thank you. Keep you guys, keep your eyes open. I'm definitely not stopping anytime soon. I'm just going full force. But I appreciate you, doing your due diligence on me, making me feel all important. Stop it. But yeah, I love what I'm doing and only up from here.
Well, first and foremost, everybody has a story to tell, Miss Red Velvet, and I'm happy to give you that platform to tell your story. So for that, it is my pleasure, and I'm happy to have you. So on that note, I will say this. Another thing I have to ask you. Slam Force Africa. We got to talk about Africa here. How does that feel? Of course. For you? How does that feel? Because that's absolutely amazing, and I congratulate you once more on that.
I'm still in a little bit of shock. It's less than like a month away, and it's almost the farthest place I'm going to wrestle. But just the fact that I'll be making history for all my Latin people, toda mi gente latina, mi gente de Colombia, my Colombian family, my Colombian people, my heritage. Just the fact that I was chosen to be the first Colombian female wrestler to ever wrestle on African soil just means that my game needs to be at 300. Because I got to represent not only for women wrestlers, but all those Hispanic wrestlers, all my Hispanic people. So I'm very excited, and I'm sharing the ring with 3 amazing women and 3 amazing athletes. Are you kidding me? So it's definitely my biggest project right now, and I'm excited. I can't even believe that it's almost less than 30 days away. I'm kind of nervous.
Well,
I'm not nervous.
All right, I'm going to say this because we touched upon this earlier on the show, like repertoires and going to different countries, including Africa, which, God, I'm going to tell you right now because you already said it, but I'll reiterate. You're doing, Colombia, Latinas, everybody proud, and I look forward to seeing what you do in Africa. But, again, that helps. I know it's the farthest that you've wrestled, but when you're under that bright lights, you will deliver. So, again, much love and respect to you there.
Oh, thank you. You guys are making me all emotional.
Well, here's the thing, man. I'm not going to Africa. You're going to Africa. You're representing. I see what you're doing. So,
Of course.
That's wonderful. And I'm going to tell you right now, before I even have you promote your social medias and stuff, you just have that spark, you have that drive, and it's just going to take you far. And I can't wait to have you back on the show. And we're going to talk about some more Red Velvet, 5 foot wine, 5 foot fine, sweet as wine. So, Miss Red Velvet, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to step back because ladies first. It's not just the Queen Latifah song. Facebook, Twitter, you're welcome. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let everybody know where we can find you on the social media platforms. The floor is yours, Miss Velvet.
You guys can find me on Instagram at LA_Velvet with 2 T's, not 1, 2 T's. And you can find me on Facebook as Stefa Cardona, or you can follow my wrestling page, which is also the same as my Instagram, LA_Velvet with 2 T's. Don't have a Twitter right now because I'm not trying to Twitter beef with anybody, so I just kind of stay away from Twitter. But yeah, you guys can find me there. If I'm in your local town, I'm always, selling pictures, T-shirts, pins, taking pictures of my fans. I love my fans. If you see me in public anywhere, please come up to me. Let me know. I don't bite, only on the weekends. If you guys, if anyone's out there, any promoters interested, they want to book your 5 foot fine sweeter than wine, you can book me at Red Velvet with 2 T's bookings at hotmail.com, or anyone listening can pass the news to whatever promoter. If you guys want to see me in your town, please, 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 it's up to you guys to make that happen. I can do it on my own, but I can't do it without you guys, so just spread the word so Red Velvet can sprinkle sweetness and sexiness all over your hometown.
All right, I had to keep my composure for a second because this girl just said only on the weekends. You just said I only bite on the weekends. I'm sorry, but that was good. That was good. But I have to say this once more, people. Check out Red Velvet. And for those who are supporting her, keep supporting her. I know you love your fans, and that was going to be my follow-up, but you said that beautifully. Support Red Velvet. Book Red Velvet. The links to your Facebook and your Instagram will be below this audio. So, Red Velvet, do you have any final words as well for the people tuning in and listening?
Yes, I remember way back then when I was listening to podcasts. I still do. So just the fact that anyone staying tuned to listen to my story and how I got started, I just want to say thank you. I love my fans. I love anyone who loves wrestling and who's gone behind me. I could not have done any of it without you guys. So big thank you to you guys.
Alrighty, and we'll leave it at that. And I'm just going to say right now, guys, thank you so much for tuning into another edition of On the Mic with Mike for Miss Red Velvet. My name is Mike Larkin. Stay tuned. I'll be back in the next episode, and I will just say this once more. Red Velvet, it was an absolute pleasure and a privilege. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you. I had fun. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Talk to you
next time.
Bye.